Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 319 based on novel. So let's start. The sound of the waves continued to enter the ears of the four people here. This sound seemed to contain a strange rhythm and seemed to contain the lore of the world. However, as the waves echoed, the grey-robed All-Seer's mouth felt dry. He wasn't the only one, the other two avatars felt the same. In fact, they were even worse off, and fear grew within their hearts at an uncontrollable rate. Master Void had completely awakened when he looked at the bright red sun appearing over the horizon. Although only a small portion of the sun was exposed, the dazzling light was like swords that wanted to tear the night apart. He who was within the night was like part of the night, and would be destroyed with it. This was the power of sundered night. Time seemed to last for forever, but it also felt like it only took an instant for the sun to rise up. The moment the sun went up, an unimaginable force appeared. This was the power of the rising sun that could destroy anything blocking it. It also completely displayed the power of that sliver of lore of origin. The dark night was forcibly torn apart. This power was strong enough to reverse the world, shake the heavens, and cause the night to collapse. The shattered night would be blown away and the world would be covered with light. It also contained Wang Lin's monstrous killing intent. It contained Wang Lin's unwillingness that was born after being hunted throughout the Celestial Emperor Cave and becoming a helper to the All-Seer and ancient devil Tarjio's plan in the end. It also contained the suppressed anger that he had been holding this whole time. Wang Lin's two vermilion bird awakenings caused an unimaginable heat to appear. This heat was far stronger than anything Wang Lin's spell could produce. Thanks to the lore of origin, Wang Lin's sundered night was able to harvest the moment of intense heat from the rising sun and magnify it to an unimaginable degree. The sun that rose from the sea released unprecedented golden light and incredible heat. It wasn't as simple as just tearing the night apart, it was going to completely crush everything and burn everything to ashes. The first person to face Wang Lin's sundered night was Master Void, who was the closest. The sunlight swept across the earth along with the extreme heat. Master Void was already dying, and his origin soul was dissipating form, failing his first heaven's blight. If not for the seal ancient devil Tarjio had placed on him, Master Void would have been long dead. At this moment, under the boundless sunlight, the night was torn and Master Void's face turned pale. His body was formed by the first heaven's blight, and at this moment, both of his legs collapsed into mist. However, the mist immediately dissipated without a trace due to the bright sunlight. But the current him couldn't feel pain. The only thing that he felt was the boundless fear and the feeling of disbelief. After his legs collapsed, the ancient devil mark between his eyebrows only lasted a moment before dissipating as well. After it dissipated, Master Void let out a miserable scream and his body dissipated, but he tried to back away. However, this world was very large. Not even the night could escape the power of sundered night, so how could Master Void? No matter how far he retreated, he couldn't escape death. As he retreated, the sunlight rushed forward. Master Void's screams echoed as the sunlight pierced through his body. He vanished with a miserable smile and was filled with despair. Master Void was a powerful peak Nirvana Shatterer cultivator with a high status within the Alliance, and he was even the junior brother of Master Zhongxian. He was once so famous, yet he couldn't escape the reincarnation cycle, the first heaven's blight, and the consequences of his own ill actions. Master Void disappeared with endless regret and an urge to live. All of this happened in an instant. At the instant the sun rose, Master Void died. Without pausing, the light tore apart the night and swept toward the grey-robed All-Seer and the other two All-Seer avatars. At this instant, the grey-robed All-Seer felt the pain of being torn apart from every part of his body. Even his independent origin soul was wrapped in this power. He had never felt this kind of pain before, it was as if every part of his body was being torn to pieces. A powerful sense of life and death crisis filled his heart. He suppressed the fear in his heart and then let out a roar and opened his arms. A monstrous amount of origin energy spread out from his body and turned into endless slaughter energy. This slaughter energy was endless and covered the entire sky. The roar of the slaughter energy tried to suppress the sound of the sea. It also tried to suppress the power of this sundered night that was enough to make him almost lose his wits. Not just him, but the other two All-Seer avatars turned pale and used their own spells. The yellow-robed All-Seer rotated rapidly. His body turned into a storm and he charged into the sky. The sky suddenly changed colors and countless yellow ripples appeared in the darkness, then the heavenly fate finger came crashing down. The yellow-robed All-Seer was the one that possessed the law of heavenly fate. At this moment, as he roared, the giant finger carried an aura that could make all mortals bow down in worship as it charged at the rising sun. He wanted to destroy this sun. The purple-robed All-Seer's hand formed a seal and a purple mist appeared behind him. The purple mist rose into the air and fused with the night. Even the purple-robed All-Seer fused with the night. In an instant, there was a hint of purple within the night, and hideous figures walked out one by one. They all looked different, and there were men and women among them. They looked like angry ghosts that had been trapped in hell. The moment they walked out, they let out loud hisses and roars. These people who were the people devoured in the heavenly fate sect over the countless years. However, the moment their spells appeared, they were pierced by the sunlight just like the darkness of the night. The evil figures that came out of the purple night all charged toward the sun, but before the burning sun, they were torn apart. They were like moths rushing into the flame. Some began to burn as they were pierced by the sunlight and were torn apart. It only took a moment for them to dissipate completely. The purple-robed All-Seer was forced out from the night with a twisted expression. His face was pale and he coughed out a mouthful of blood. His pupils shrank violently, and the terror in his heart reached an extreme. As for the heavenly fate finger, it carried powerful momentum as it charged for the sun. However, before it got close, it was swept by the sunlight, and popping sounds came from inside it. It also began burning, and the fire rapidly spread. In just a moment, the finger collapsed just like the night. Law of origin, the origin of all law in the universe. The yellow-robed All-Seer had a pale expression. He felt pain from his body and blood came out from all of his orifices. He coughed out a mouthful of blood and revealed a miserable smile. Then the grey-robed All-Seer's countless slaughter energy charged at the sun like fierce dragons. However, the sunlight caused the stands of cold slaughter energy to dissipate one by one. Even those that didn't dissipate were torn apart by the sun. The grey-robed All-Seer's face was pale, but his eyes were ferocious. He had independent will and knew that if he didn't give it his all, he might die under this spell. Going all out. The grey-robed All-Seer's hand formed a seal and pointed to his body. Popping sounds came from his body and his eyes turned completely red. Then a ray light flew out from his forehead. It was a crimson blood sword. This blood sword was the root of all the slaughter energy he had cultivated and the source of slaughter. The moment the blood sword appeared, the world was enveloped in endless killing intent. The grey-robed All-Seer pointed, and the blood sword charged at the sun like a bolt of thunder. The yellow-robed All-Seer also let out a roar, and his hand spread out as he charged into the sky. In the blink of an eye, his head turned into a thumb. His arm turned into the index and middle fingers. His legs turned into the ring finger and pinky. Then his body turned into the palm. He turned into an unimaginably large palm. This palm was like the heavenly fate finger, only even more powerful, and it contained all the power inside the yellow-robed All-Seer. As this palm charged at the sun, it opened its hand, and it was about to ruthlessly grab it. The purple-robed All-Seer also wiped the blood from his mouth, and his eyes were filled with madness. When he moved, something strange happened. Thousands of shadows appeared behind him. They were like afterimages that he left behind because he was moving too fast. However, every single shadow was different. As the purple-robed All-Seer closed in on the sun, each of the shadows fused with his body. As he got closer to the sun, the purple-robed All-Seer's aura was monstrous. The three of them were already as desperate as trapped beasts. If they couldn't break this spell that was making them lose their wits, they'd have no chance of survival. Just as the three All-Seers attacked, a figure appeared in the sun. It was Wang Lin. Wang Lin was the sun, and bursts of golden light came from his body. The sea below revealed the demon spirit land as if everything before them was trapped between real and unreal. As Wang Lin coldly looked at the arrival of those three, he raised his hand and waved. He then calmly said one thing. "Sundered Night." The moment "Sundered Night" came from Wang Lin's mouth, rumble echoed across the world and the sun rose completely above the ocean. A force that could tear the night surged out without reservation. The endless sunlight swept forward like crazy. The law of origin moved with it and flooded the world. The Sundered Night was born from the sea. The rapidly moving purple-robed all-seer that had thousands of shadows fused with it came crashing into the Sundered Night. The endless sunlight and intense heat would destroy everything before it as if it was the dark night. There were no exceptions. Unimaginable pain came from the purple-robed all-seer's body. His arms turned into a mist of blood and dissipated, followed by his legs and a large part of this body. In just a moment, the purple-robed all-seer collapsed. As he collapsed, countless shadows came out of his body. Those shadows all hissed and pounced at Wang Lin inside the sun. However, they were like snowflakes under the sun, they all melted without a trace. The giant palm formed by the yellow-robed all-seer came crashing down. Not even the sun could penetrate the palm, and it came reaching for Wang Lin inside the sun. Wang Lin was still calm, and he sneered even though the palm grabbed a hold of the sun that surrounded his body. However, the moment the palm grabbed the sun, a miserable scream came from the palm. The young fire that could burn anything swept across the palm, causing it to tremble, and the palm immediately transformed back into the yellow-robed all-seer. The yellow-robed all-seer looked like he was hugging the sun, but in just a few breaths of time, he was on fire, and the only thing left was the remains. The blood sword released by the grey-robed all-seer charged forward, breaking through everything in an act of desperation. It immediately stabbed into the blazing sun. At this instant, a monstrous slaughter energy came out from the blood sword and collided with the intense heat and sunlight from the sun. The grey-robed all-seer let out a roar and his right eye suddenly collapsed. The moment his right eye collapsed, the blood sword's power increased several-fold. The flames wrapped around it were all forced back, and even the sunlight around it was shattered. The impact from the blood sword immediately broke through a majority of the sun and was only 10 feet away from Wang Lin. The grey-robed all-seer let out another roar and then his left eye shattered as well. The blood sword became even more powerful and was able to pierce through the sun. It headed straight for Wang Lin. With the grey-robed all-seer's desperate attack, the night that was torn apart seemed to unexpectedly condense once more. It seemed like it wanted to devour the sun. The blood sword charged through the sun and directly pierced into Wang Lin's chest. However, when it was halfway through his chest, Wang Lin caught the sword with his right hand. He was forced back several steps and he coughed out a mouthful of blood. Then his head jerked up and he revealed a ferocious expression. "Old thing, you almost killed me by making me cultivate the celestial slaughter art. Today, die for me." As Wang Lin roared, the sun around his body unexpectedly exploded and quickly spread out with him as the center. This was the self-destruction of the sun, and the power contained within was unimaginable. It was as if the sky was cracked open and pushed back. The sea began to rage and the ground collapsed. The destructive force in the world reached a terrifying degree when the sun exploded. The grey-robed all-seer was the closest, so he took the brunt of the force. He only had time to form a seal and place his hand before him. He huddled together like a baby before he was swept by this insane power. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The remnant night that was beginning to reform collapsed completely. At this moment, the sky and earth disappeared, the only thing that remained was the chaos from the collapse of the blazing sun. However, in just a moment, the world disappeared. The sea disappeared, the sun disappeared, and even the shattered sky disappeared. Everything disappeared without a trace, and what appeared before them was the demon spirit land. It was as if everything that had just happened was just a dream. The sky was still red and filled with fire. The vermilion bird cry pierced through the flames and came closer and closer. However, the shocking gazes of everyone on the ground were enough to explain that everything that had just happened was real. The grey-robed all-seer continued to dissipate until he was only a sliver of will. In a flash, he returned back to the all-seer's original body. Sundered Night had killed 3 people. These 3 people were not ordinary people, They were Master Void and two of the All-Seer's avatars. Even the grey-robed was seriously injured, and only a sliver of his will remained. Ling Qianhu trembled. Before, he only dreaded Wang Lin. Even though that giant palm had brought him some fear, it didn't leave him terrified like he was now. He would have never guessed that Wang Lin's spell would become this powerful. What is his cultivation level? This kind of spell is unheard of. The All-Seer's face turned pale, and he coughed out a mouthful of blood. He was forced back several steps and his head jerked up to look at Wang Lin. Out of his 3 avatars, 2 were destroyed, and the grey-robed one was now only a sliver of will. This was a rare blow that he hadn't suffered in countless years, and now he was also injured. However, the injuries to his body and origin soul were insignificant compared to his calculations. He had been wrong multiple times with Wang Lin, and it was a serious blow to his confidence. No one noticed, but his body was trembling. He was trembling because of that spell. The All-Seer was immediately able to see that it was the law of origin, the origin of all laws. It was not something a cultivator could master, and its power was unimaginable. He destroyed 3 of my avatars. Wang Lin, the biggest mistake I made was accepting you as my disciple and giving you the chance to leave planet Suzaku. The All-Seer was gnashing his teeth. He took deep breath before he suppressed the shock in his mind and forced himself to calm down. He wasn't the only one. Sichu Nan, Big Head, Master Hollow Wind, and everyone else was also stunned. Master Hollow Wind was slightly less shocked as he had experienced Sundered Night before. His scalp felt numb and fear lingered in his heart. Even Wang Wei and Hu Huan gasped. They looked each other and could see the shock and terror in each other's eyes. Just now, they were also pulled into that illusion, only it was as if they were placed in a separate space. They could only watch but not help. They weren't even the ones that were most shocked by this. It was ancient devil Ta Jiao, who was charging into the sky with his blade, and the Flower Imperial Concubine. The Flower Imperial Concubine looked at Wang Lin with eyes filled with reminiscence and fear. What made her reminisce was how her husband said he would be saved by someone named Wang. What made her feel fear was the law of origin spell Wang Lin had displayed. No one understood the law of origin more than her. Back then, Celestial Emperor Qing Lin almost died to the law of origin. In the sealed realm, it was called the law of origin, but outside, it was called the law of absolute beginning. Ancient devil Ta Jiao's calm mind was shaken for the first time. He felt a terrifying power within that spell. Although it was still weak, once it grows, it will be something even he would have to retreat in fear from. This is the power of the Supreme. Ta Jiao's gaze locked onto Wang Lin, and his pupils shrank. He had a feeling that this person was the last trick Qing Lin had prepared for his awakening. In the Cultivation Alliance headquarters, where the life tokens of the important people were kept, one of the 3 purple jade tokens at the top shelf shattered the moment Wang Lin's Sundered Night disappeared. Also, at this moment, the chime of a bell echoed across the Cultivation Alliance headquarters. A portion of the cultivators within the headquarters looked up at where the life tokens were stored. Ever since the war with all heaven started, people died every day, but they weren't important enough to have their life tokens stored at headquarters. The bell that signaled someone's death had only rung a few times, at most only 5 times in a row. With the arrogance of the Cultivation Alliance, they wouldn't care anything about morals, they would launch a large-scale revenge battle. Anyone who dared to kill an important member of the Cultivation Alliance would become the enemy of the entire alliance. The bell echoed 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. When the bell rang 5 times, another portion of the people at the headquarters looked up toward where the life tokens were stored. However, the expressions of all those people changed as the bell didn't stop and continued. 6 times, 7 times, until it rang 8 times. At this instant, all the cultivators inside headquarters stopped what they were doing and looked at where the tokens of the powerful cultivators were stored. Dong! When the bell rang for the 9th time, it caused everyone to gasp and then become filled with terror. The middle-aged man that was still sitting inside the secret room raised his head, and his eyes filled with indignation. His body flickered and surged out like a storm across the headquarters. At this instant, he arrived at where the life tokens were placed, and he looked at Master Void's token before letting out a heaven-shaking roar. The entire Cultivation Alliance seemed to tremble from this roar. Only one person calmly arrived outside the Cultivation Alliance headquarters. He coldly stared ahead with the red light representing the G-realm flashing in his right eye as he walked inside. The moment Sundered Night disappeared and Wang Lin appeared back in the Demon Spirit Land, the endless chaos in the 18th layer of his 18 Hell Celestial ceiling stamp was pierced open by an unimaginable power, and 3 souls appeared inside. Master Void's soul during his first Heaven's Blight, the purple-robed All-Seer avatar, and the yellow-robed All-Seer avatar. The 2 avatars unexpectedly began to fuse in the 18th layer. Wang Lin's face was pale, but he stood extremely straight. At this moment, no one present dared to underestimate him, no matter who they were. Killing 3 people and causing a 4th person to become only a sliver of wool was not something an ordinary person could do. Wang Lin's pale face revealed a hideous expression as he coldly looked at the All-Seer and his avatars. The blood sword was still stuck in his chest, trapped inside his flesh. Blood came out of the wound and dyed his clothes red. The All-Seer's 3 great avatars were desperate, but Wang Lin was also desperate. If he wasn't, he would have died. Although Sundered Night consumed no origin energy when it was used at dawn, the enemies Wang Lin faced were too strong. Although he had used no origin energy, his origin soul had weakened greatly. At this moment, the aura in Wang Lin's words was imposing enough to cause the All-Seer to become silent. The surroundings were completely silent, but at this moment that the cries of the vermilion bird above became even more intense. As the vermilion bird cries came closer and closer, Wang Lin's vermilion bird tattoo trembled violently. It flew directly out of Wang Lin's body outside of his control. The white vermilion bird raised its proud head and let out a vermilion bird cry at the sky. The 2 cries intersected, and there was a hint of joy in the cry from Wang Lin's white vermilion bird. The white vermilion bird circled Wang Lin and continued to cry. Then an even more intense sea of flames appeared above the Demon Spirit Land and replaced the world. As the vermilion bird cries echoed, a giant vermilion bird head came out of the sea of flames. The head was so big that it almost occupied the entire sky. The fire from its body seemed to want to dry up the entire land. The moment the vermilion bird head appeared, an unimaginable pressure descended. Master Hollow Wind and them were awakened from their shock and gasped. Sichu Nan's eyes opened wide. Even Ling Qianho's pupils shrank when he raised his head. The All-Seer's expression became even more gloomy, and there was a hint of bitterness in it. The vermilion bird's sharp gaze swept the ground until it fell on Wang Lin, and it let out another cry. The huge vermilion bird charged out from the flames. As its body came out, the flames around it rapidly shrank. In just an instant, the vermilion bird's true spirit came out of the sea of flames. The sea of flames became the feathers on its body, and the remaining flames turned into its tail. Only after it charged out and revealed its entire body did everyone realize that this vast sea of flames was part of the vermilion bird's body. The sound of people inhaling echoed. The giant vermilion bird charged directly at Wang Lin. He frowned, but there was enlightenment in his mind. This enlightenment came from the familiar feeling he got from his vermilion bird tattoo. In an instant, the giant vermilion bird closed in. It was going to enter the spot between his eyebrows, but it suddenly changed its mind. The vermilion bird's true spirit turned into a sea of flames and surged into the wound on Wang Lin's chest. At this instant, a sea of flames appeared around Wang Lin, and his body floated into the air due to a mysterious power. His body gave off monstrous flames and his white vermilion bird returned back to his body. Then a crimson-red suit of armor appeared around Wang Lin's body. This crimson-red armor was very beautiful and had the carvings of a white vermilion bird. At this moment, Wang Lin looked extremely dazzling in people's eyes. Even the blood sword in his chest gradually shrank, and it remained inside Wang Lin's body. From the outside, there was not a single trace of it left. His white, flowing hair seemed to complement his red armor, and Wang Lin's eyes revealed a hint of sharpness. Even now, he was uncertain of what had happened. However, the indescribable power of flames made Wang Lin feel a sliver of nirvana cleanser cultivation. It was as if he could control all of the flames in the world with a thought. Like the ancient thunder dragon, he had the power to command all of the fire in the world. In the sky, hundreds of people appeared behind the vermilion bird. The 6 in front all gave off powerful pressure. They all had white hair and gave off earth-shattering auras. Nirvana Shatterer. Behind the 6 of them, all of the vermilion bird divine sect members emitted powerful flame auras. When they appeared, their gaze all locked onto Wang Lin. When the 6 elders saw Wang Lin, their faces revealed excitement and shock. What made them excited was that they had come all this way in order to protect the person who had awakened. Now that they saw that Wang Lin was safe, they all let out sighs of relief. However, what shocked them was that although they were outside, the moment the Law of Origin appeared, they were also pulled into the illusion of the sundered night. After experiencing such a terrifying spell, how could they not be shocked? There was also a trace of dread in that shock. If they were like this, there was no need to mention the hundreds of vermilion bird divine sect members. They all looked at Wang Lin with fanaticism in their eyes. If there were no accidents, this person would be their next divine emperor. One of the 6 elders with 7 vermilion birds embroidered on his clothes immediately shouted, "Protect the person who awakened." After he shouted, the 6 elders immediately arrived next to Wang Lin. The rest of the vermilion bird divine sect disciples spread out and looked at everyone with killing intent. This video will end here.